So I took a film class with Jane Camp at Heartland Community College. When I enrolled in the class, I didn't know what film photography was. I thought it was a digital camera class. So that was really my intro to photography, is learning with film 35 millimeter, which was really beneficial to me. Gave me a really good grasp of just the principles of photography, just keeping it really simple, which I really enjoy, and I really translated that into digital photography, just keeping it really simple. My landscape photography, and I don't really like to say landscape because to me it's much more than that. It's really just me being in nature, discovering these places. So this project is based on some work I did at Heartland Community College titled Solace in the Heartland. And it's really just an evolving project. I shouldn't really say it was in the past because it's still going on. I'm still taking photos to add to this project. But really it was about just getting out of the city of Bloomington Normal. You know, growing up here my whole life, living in a college town, and discovering these places that are mostly just 15 to 20 minutes away in either direction. These beautiful places that I really didn't know existed just outside the city limits. You can find just gorgeous nature, landscapes, I guess you could say. So that's really what this project is based on, as well as just me kind of finding peace and calm with my camera, discovering these new places that I really didn't know were there. My work it's become more simplified. There's more purpose to it. I think it's simplified because I'm really using digital photography now, digital cameras, but I still have that same mindset of a film camera. I don't really like all the extras on the digital camera. I don't like to think about it. So I have my couple things that I think about, and then it's out of my mind. It allows me to kind of discover things in my vision instead of worrying about all these camera settings and things I need to do. So I think I simplify it for myself, and also it's more purposeful because I kind of have an idea in my mind now when I go out. And sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do when it's certain scenarios. This project really doesn't have a purpose to it when I think about like having a set idea. It's just kind of discovering, but it does kind of lean towards that at times when I kind of have a vision in my mind for other projects especially. So I think it's special to show here at the McLean County Art Center because I grew up here, lived in Normal and Bloomington my entire life, and just knowing the prestige of it, the people that show their work here, a lot of local artists, a lot of people that I've looked up to in my time being a photographer and learning new things. And being a student at Heartland Community College, I was in the amateur exhibition for a couple years, and it was always just kind of a goal, a dream really, to kind of be able to show my work here as I grew, and I just had the opportunity to do it, and I take a lot of pride in it. It's really special, as long as me being with Jim and Ted, just really talented photographers, really great at what they do. So pretty proud to be here with them showing my work.
Well, what started me in photography was basically I had a friend that was a good photographer. He only had 8 megapixel camera, and he was getting some great images. And I dabbled with it in high school, back in the film days when you actually had to develop your own pictures. And but with him, he kind of showed me the digital side of it, and so naturally I went out and bought a camera. I think it was only 8 megapixel, and started going out to the lake, and Lake Evergreen, Lake Bloomington, in the early mornings with my dog. And he really started that because he was a lab and he loved the water, and so we would go out there, and while he was swimming and running around, I would take pictures. And then I realized the beauty of it, and it started getting a little more serious with it. But I have to tell you, it was a big learning curve. When I had my very first camera, I remember who reads manuals, right? I bought it, just started snapping away, and I wondered why everything was out of focus. I even sent the camera into Canon and said, hey, there's something wrong with this camera. And as it turns out, the part was wrong was me. So I ended up having to learn how to use the tool. And then I got excited about when I started getting good images. Yeah, I had a next door neighbor that was a great photographer. He was actually an ER doctor back in the old Brokaw days. And he showed me his dark room that he had he just made a closet and put a dark room in it. And he was a great photographer. And that inspired me a little bit in high school to dabble with it. But when I got into music, my time was so consumed with learning tunes and performing that I really didn't have time for another hobby like that. And then as I got a little older, I realized on one of my weekends back, I was still working at the time, and I decided to leave the music performing part and I just kind of fell into photography. It just kind of came naturally, and it's progressed quite a bit over the years. I think the biggest part was getting the image and then processing. I mean, I shoot raw mostly, and there's so much different things you could do with a raw image. I mean, it's like a digital negative, and so learning processing was almost as important as composition and some of the other things for the final image. I know artists are supposed to have a style, and I have a hard time with that because I like to try different things. I like to do. If I have a style, it would probably be in black and white more than anything else. When I do black and white, I have a particular way of doing it. But as far as landscapes and some of the other things, I really like to dabble and try something different. I get bored easily, and that's probably the reason why I do that. I love the challenge and I love learning. And I think learning new things, and same with music and same with photography. I think it's the same kind of process, and it's exciting when it works. I carry 2 cameras with me, and I have one with a landscape lens, and then I have one with a long telephoto lens. And if I go out in the mornings, I will look for wildlife, but if the opportunity presents itself, I will shoot landscape also. So it's just a matter of what develops in the morning. I'm not primarily, a lot of people say, you're a landscape photographer or a portrait photographer or wildlife, and I like to think of myself as just a photographer because I like to do a little bit of everything, even macro. I don't know, I just love photography. I love the fact that you can freeze a moment.
My name is Ted Diamond. I live in Normal, Illinois. I went to graduate school at Illinois State University, and I photographed simulations of the American flags. So no real flags, just simulations. So I started shooting simulations of the American flag when I got out to Illinois. They were few and far between, and they just piqued my interest. I've always had an interest in popular culture. In fact, I had somebody once tell me that that's what I should be photographing, and especially photographing people who are middle class like me. But I started seeing these, and I started photographing them, and they were extremely rare when I first started photographing them. I would take one every maybe several months if I was lucky. But then September 11th came, and they started popping up all over the place. And in fact, somebody came out with a book published by State Farm, and they were a little rah-rah, yayas. But the big thing for me is they had a lot of heartfelt emotion, but it didn't really keep up in a sense. So you could start seeing those flags start to decay. So I started photographing the flag, and I've been photographing them ever since. And you can see the decay in some of them. Some of them are getting repainted, but I just find them really interesting. Some of them are commercial. Some of them are very personal to people. And there's kind of an intersection where all those things meet. And I'm just trying to photograph that intersection. Often don't get a chance to talk to people, but sometimes I do. I know with this, yeah, people will. I'm trying to take what looks like a really documentary approach. I'm trying to look neutral, although I don't think anybody is really ever neutral with these things. And what I notice is that when I show these photographs, people see them according to, as you put it, their tribe. People who are more conservative will see them as being that way. People who are more liberal will see it that way. In some ways, it can almost cause a problem because people see me as like not taking a stand, and they want me to take a stand. And these just present them, at least seemingly, without doing that. People will just interpret them according to what they already think. So one of the older photographs that I have in here that I originally shot on film is of a place, some people will refer to it as the Flag House. It's a little southeast of Decatur, Illinois. And my understanding of it is the gentleman who first created it was a German immigrant. And he painted it on the house around the time of the First World War to show people that he was an American. And it's still there. So he wanted to make sure that people knew that he was, where his sympathies lie. I have a number of favorites. Sometimes they tend to be more favorite when they're newer. I have one that I reshot recently in Ashmore, Illinois, where people really liked the original picture. I never liked it. It was just always wrong to me. There wasn't something quite right about it. So I drove back down there in a snowstorm. Snowstorms make every photograph better. So I went down there, and my girlfriend Bonnie went with me. And I sat there and I took out my camera and I photographed it a number of different ways. Cropped it in a lot more than the original. Made sure to get the snow falling, which is hard to handhold, but did it and got a much, much nicer photograph. It's actually on the window of a building, and somebody's storing tractors behind that window. Again, I haven't found out why, but I think it's one of the more beautiful pictures. A lot of them really aren't very beautiful at all. Yeah, and I really want your focus to be on what's going on in the image. I don't make the color super saturated or anything like that. I don't try to make it ridiculously sharp so it looks more like an illustration than a photograph. I want you to be able to focus on what's going on. When I see a truck next to a flag on two poles, there was actually an old restaurant there. I want you to focus on that and the interplay between them. I want you to take a look at a shed and the flag that's on it. Could have super saturated the red and the blue. Probably could have gone down and photographed it during a nicer time of year. But it really makes you focus on what's actually there in the photograph, rather than just the color, the time of day, something like that. There are a few pretty ones, but the ones that are pretty in a different way, not because of the color or the sunset or anything like that.